Well, believe it or not, this is the last game of the season. Hard to believe that we've already gone through all these games, and here we are up to the last game versus the Carolina Panthers. Welcome to Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight. And I'm joined today by my guest, Michael Pless. He's a writer for Real Bucs Talk. And Michael, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can follow us at Real Bucs Talk, as well, Instagram, um, realbuckstalk.blogspot.com. It's just a site, everything about Buccaneers. We love talking, whether it be games or player prospects, anything you want to ask us, we'll try to find the answer for you. Just love talking Bucs football. And yeah, another
Yeah, it's that, and this is the part of the year I really don't like, man, because pretty soon we're going to be stuck with baseball or golf or I don't know, tic-tac-toe or something. And it's just not as exciting as football. I mean, you look at all the ups and downs that the Bucs have had, and here we are. And you talk about ups and downs, and the Buccaneers have been in the playoff conversation for I'd say about the past 3 weeks to a month. And it was up to the Bucs to go out and win some games. And one of those games was this game here against the New Orleans Saints that we just had. And unfortunately, the Bucs came up short. And I kind of wanted to talk about that game because to me, that was a game that I felt was kind of a defining game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You've got a Saints team that hasn't really done as good as they could do throughout the season, and Tampa goes into New Orleans and they just don't play as good as they could have on defense. Jameis Winston had a great game, and but still, as a team, you play as a team when you lose as a team or you win as a team. And to me, that's just one of those things that Tampa just didn't do.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, unfortunately, we're probably not going to be in the playoffs this year again. Um, the future is bright with this team. You got to remember this is a young team, very young roster, new coaching staff still, who's also learning. So you have a rookie head coach who I thought has gotten better with each game. Um, this game, I thought it was just every time the Bucs did something good, something negative happened right after. It was just unfortunate bounces. And the Bucs, they had that game, right there, 21-28. Thought we had a turnover. It gets reversed back. They call it incomplete pass. I don't know. I thought it was a fumble. But you just couldn't catch a break in that game. And then we had, the interceptions. I thought Jameis was going to, do something there. I thought he was going to bring us back and, get us over the top, but it just didn't happen. It just wasn't meant to be. Just couldn't find the right breaks in the game to go our way.
Yeah, most definitely. And unfortunately, the Bucs didn't take advantage of a lot of opportunities that they had to get in the end zone or do something. So it's a learning process. And when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I know this is something that we'll definitely talk about more next week, but I definitely want to I want to point this out. You consider the Bucs were a 2-win team, and they went from a 2-win team to a 6-win team, and now you're on the cusp of possibly being an 8 or 9-win team. So to me, that's growth and that's experience. And you have to really realize, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had a lot of years of losing, a lot of years of a negative culture or a culture that wasn't conducive for winning. I'll put it that way. And what you have now is a football team that's learning how to win. And they've got a lot of positive pieces in place. When you look at Ayers, you look at Jameis Winston, you look at Quan Alexander. These are guys that they don't want to settle for mediocrity. They want to be the best. They want to win. They want to try to get better. I mean, and Ayers is a good example. You have a man who's been in the league as long as he has, and he's still continuing to try to hone his craft and just continually get better. So, I mean, these are all positive pieces that are falling falling in the Bucks' lap at this time, it's all falling at the same time. So that's something that's vital. It's huge when you can rebuild the culture of an organization and turn them around. And
Mm-hmm.
you know this is important, and you know this is big when you look at other teams in the NFL, such as the Cleveland Browns. And Cleveland Browns, they've made all these different changes with coaches, with general managers, with players, personnel. They've made all these different changes, and it's still they still are unable to turn it around. So just imagine how fortunate Tampa really is to have a quarterback who, for all intents and purposes, should be a senior this year in college, but he's playing in his second year in the NFL, and he's found some success. I mean, you look at it, the number of touchdowns he's thrown and the yards he's amassed over these 2 seasons, and continually progressing to be better is huge. And I keep using that word huge because to me it is. When you look at the quarterbacks that Tampa's had, you look at the administration that Tampa's had, and you look at some of the personnel that Tampa's had, and where they are right now, it looks way better than what we were looking at years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jameis is just going to get better, as far as, as long as this team, continues to get better. That's what we're looking for. And, once we make it to where we are at our best, this team will be Super Bowl champions. Um, and that's the ultimate goal. That's what you want. You want to win championships. And I believe this team has the right, mix in line with, Coach Cutter and Jason Light. So I think they have the pieces in place, like you said, with Quan Alexander, Vernon Hargraves and Noah Spence, who have all made, leaps and bounds this season. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that we lost this game. We're just not there yet. Just team's just not ready. Um, they showed signs. Maybe we could get there. Maybe by some way we could find a way to pull it off, but it just didn't happen. We just couldn't get those, breaks that we needed. But again, this team still has the nucleus in place, and we're just going to keep building to it. I believe in Jason Light, and I think this coaching staff is going to get better along with these players. So I think we have a good mix here, but we want to finish strong, and we want to beat the Panthers this week for sure.
Yeah, that's what's most important. And when you look at that Saints team, you have a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't see any way that Drew Brees is not in the Hall of Fame first ballot. You have him, as your quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, and that right there always gives you the opportunity to win. When you have a quarterback like that, you always have that opportunity to do something big. So that was something that I felt like Drew Brees was the driving force in New Orleans winning. And I really hope that, Jameis can eventually get to the point where that's where he is. That's who he is. That's his identity, is getting out there and putting his team in a position to win and not throwing the ball, not turning the ball over. But as we mentioned before, he's young. These are still growing pains, and it's something that he's continually getting better at. And we do see instances where he holds onto the ball, or he throws the ball away, or he makes better choices. And to be very honest, his decision making this year has improved over last year. So that's a plus. And he's winning games, and that's another plus. So, I wanted to get your thoughts on this Saints game, because this is a game that if Tampa, I normally don't do if and what if and all that, but Tampa would be in a different position right now had they won this game. I think they would still be mentioned as a playoff contender right now had they not lost this game. And I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on how this game progressed for you, what did you see? Did you see any positives for Tampa moving into this week's game? Do you see anything that you could really take away from that game and say, hey, this is something they did well, and it's something they can take into this Carolina Panther game and possibly use to eke out that victory?
Yeah, I mean, let me go back to your earlier point about Drew Brees. Yeah, I mean, Brees is just he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Easy for Hall of Fame choice. But yeah, I mean, if Jameis can get to that level where he knows the offense, everything's in rhythm, timing, precise with his throws. I think that's what we're looking for, and that's what we're trying to build. Jameis still has a ways to go with his mechanics as far as that goes, with his footwork and ball placement and protecting the football with two hands. So if he can get to where Brees is as far as his, just overall IQ and just the way he plays the game, that'd be something to see. So hopefully he gets there. As far as this game, as far as positives, I think, just the way the offense was able to respond, I thought that was great to see. As far as coming back after negatives, and fight till the very end. They weren't giving up in that game, which was exciting to see. And I thought the defense, they got that one stop in the fourth quarter, which helped them out, which was good to see. Gave the offense a chance to maybe make something happen in the last 5 minutes. So I mean, there's still a lot of positives, and I think going into this week's game, I think the offense can build off of it, and hopefully they can get into a rhythm for the 2017 season. Go into the offseason on a high note. But I think the running game, you want to see more of that. I think Jacquizz Rodgers only had 15 carries, so I like to see that over 20 for this week. That's something that this team, that's something that this team needs to get back to, is running the football with authority and getting those carries into the 20s to the 30s. Offense. That's what we need to stick by.
Absolutely. And that's one of those things that when the running game is working, we saw this last year. When the running game is working, it's really giving Jameis Winston more options to do more things. And unfortunately, the past couple of years, injuries, and I'm not making this as an excuse, it is what it is, but injuries have been killing the Bucs. I mean, this is the second year in a row where you haven't had a true second wide receiver. You have a guy that earned the spot for the second wide receiver, but he's not somebody that he could go out tomorrow and 31 teams are looking in the NFL are going to look at him and say, hey, this guy's a number 2 receiver. He's not that. Unfortunately, he's serviceable, and I'm not taking anything away from his abilities, but he's just not that guy. So that's what Tampa's had to work with. The Austin Seferian-Jenkins last year, the injuries, he wasn't consistently in. Here we are. We lose Cameron Brate, a huge asset on offense, a safety blanket for Jameis Winston, and we lose him as well. So here you are. You're looking at a team that really has done a lot with a little. And when I say that, you go back to some of these games prior to the Cowboys games, like the Chiefs game. The Chiefs were at home. They had a great record at home, and it's just one of those games you didn't think that Tampa was going to win. Tampa went in there and they pulled out a victory there. The game against the Seahawks, another game that Tampa was not supposed to win. Nobody picked them to win the game, and they went in and did what they had to do again. So unfortunately for Tampa, they just have not been 100% healthy throughout this year, but it's been next man up, and those next men have come in and produced when they've needed to. But here we are towards the end of the year, and this last game is important because you want to go out with a win. You want to give your fans at home something to show that you appreciate them supporting your team. So going out there and winning that game against the Carolina Panthers can be huge. It's something that would definitely carry into the draft. It'll carry into OTAs. It'll carry into training camp. People wanting to come out and watch your team, practice and stuff like that. It just winning covers so many different other sins that it's crazy. So, just being able to go in and win this game is very important, especially being the last home game of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to finish strong. I mean, you don't want to go into the offseason on a 3-game losing streak. You want to win this game, get to 9-7, which would give us, first winning record since 2010, second place finish in the NFC South, and you also go 4-2 in your division, which gives this team confidence that in their division, which it's huge. I mean, you got to have that, and I think this is a game that the Bucs can make a statement. You just come out strong and hey, show this team that this team is here to stay, and we're going to be a contender for years to come. So I'm hoping they come out and play with that aggressiveness that they've shown in the last month or so.
Yeah, most definitely. And I kind of wanted to switch gears here, and I definitely want to talk about the Carolina Panthers and their decline from last year is just shocking. I didn't see that coming personally. Just looking at this team and what they've been able to do over the past 3 or 4 seasons, the number of wins that they've had, and the way they've just come in and handled business, and the consistency that you see with a team like that. And it's just like, look at where they are now. But they've gone in and they've been very competitive in some games. They weren't so much last week against the Atlanta Falcons, but they're a team that's still a very dangerous team, with a Cam Newton and Kelvin Benjamin and who they are, Devin Funchess, and their tight end is he's one of those guys that he's able to stretch the field as well. So Carolina is still a very dangerous team, and they could present problems for Tampa if they don't execute the way they're supposed to. Eric Moreno was asking about Doug Martin as far as where we think that he'll be next season with Tampa. And Eric, in my opinion, I feel like that Doug Martin will be back here. I don't believe that Jason Light would just. I realize that a lot of people are looking at Dalvin Cook, and I've heard that name, and repeatedly, and I've heard that that Tampa needs to trade Doug Martin, but I really believe that Doug Martin still has something left in the tank, and I believe that he will be back with Tampa next year, and hopefully he'll have all this in his past, and he'll finish his 3-game suspension and come in and be able to contribute to this team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see Doug Martin going anywhere as of now. I mean, I think they're gonna see what happens, see how this goes with him, and but yeah, I fully expect him to be on this roster. You just don't let it go, a talent like Doug Martin. You just don't let him walk. So he's going to be here. He's under contract. Unless they get an offer that they can't refuse, I don't see him. So yeah, I expect him to be suiting up next year.
Yeah, so that's and that's just speculation. We don't really know what's going to happen. But I look at it this way: there are so many other holes on this team that require upgrades, and I don't know. The offensive line would be something that I would possibly be looking to mess around with to try to upgrade there. First that would be my first line there, and then possibly
they need it. They need a center.
They need a center, absolutely. Somebody that's just going to be there, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I now with that being said, they could still draft a running back. Charles Sims is a free agent. Yeah, Charles Sims is a free agent in 2018. So They could definitely draft a running back. Jacquizz Rodgers is not under contract after this season, so possibly, get a running back. It's a great class for running backs. But hey, I think Martin's still going to be on this team, though. Still, I mean, he's just too good. You don't allow Pro Bowl running backs just to go scot-free.
Yeah. So, it's just one of those things you kind of have to wait and see. I think, I have a lot of trust in Jason Light based on what he's done. And I look at what he's done over the past 3 seasons, and you compare it to what, you've seen in our past. And this is a guy that, he's a personnel guy. And I think he's made some good decisions. I know there have been some things that haven't panned out, but at the same time, what he's been able to hit on, he's done pretty good. And again, this draft, we're in a good place with salary cap. I'm sure that there will be some free agents that will be able to be used as upgrades. You look at what Tampa was able to do this year with the addition of Ayers and the addition of Brent Grimes and players like that to just come in. They weren't your high end or high dollar players, but they came in and they've been able to make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And, and go back to the offensive line. I mean, the Bucs brought in J.R. Sweezy, and it's unfortunate he hasn't been able to play this year. He was supposed to be one of our big time additions. That guy can really run block, and they were looking to bring him in to, possibly be that left guard, and then have Pamphile as your, swing tackle, which he does great at. I mean, he's having a great season this year. He's probably going to be our left guard now in the future, but get him back, and now you can move maybe Marpet to center. I mean, it's just a lot of options if you can have, full strength of your offensive line. But yeah, I mean, Jason Light is doing a great job. I mean, just bringing in guys like Ryan Russell, Adam Humphries, who's been outstanding. I saw a stat, he's like right up there with some of the greats as far as receptions, like Odell Beckham. I
saw that, and he was undrafted.
Yeah,
he's undrafted, and they were comparing him to other wide receivers in the league.
Yeah, Jarvis Landry, and I think Antonio Brown was up there. But yeah, I mean, he's had most receptions along with those guys. So games like that. Howard Jones, who unfortunately got hurt this year. Yeah. I mean, the list goes on.
He's a free agent as well, isn't he?
I believe so, but he's going to be coming back. He's I think restricted, and so is Jacquizz Smith. That's the big loss right there. Jack Smith being out, that could have been the difference maker this year if he was healthy. We might be in the playoffs if we had him, just because I think he made a difference in a couple games, especially the Oakland game.
Yeah, most definitely. And you look at somebody like a Will Golston. Do you see a Will Golston coming back to Tampa?
I think he'll sign back. I mean, I think we have the resources to get him back. Such a valuable player, so he is going to get a nice pay raise. But I think we can get him back just because he does so much for this team. I think he's a guy that will likely get back, but again, he's going to have a strong market, so we don't know. I mean, it just depends on the
and these proven players, that they've gone out, and he's played good. He's consistently played good. If you go back and look at his game film, when he was given the opportunity to play, he's come in and he's made plays. I know that there were some boneheaded plays that he's made in the past, but he's matured into a great defensive player. So I guess my next question, and I know we've kind of gotten away from Carolina. I'll get back on track here momentarily, but we're kind of talking about players that might be here or might not be here, and we'll go in depth on that next week for you guys that are checking us out right now. But it's something that's kind of in my head right now. What do you think about the safety position? I know that was a big question mark for me. If you look at my early podcasts, I mean, that was the one position that I didn't really know what we had or who was going to be, where. Mm-hmm. But I guess what are your thoughts on that position? Do you see Tampa going out and bringing somebody in, or do you see them hitting the draft, or what do you think?
I mean, I think they're going to bring back, I think they're going to bring back McDougal. Um, but yeah, I think they're definitely going to look to upgrade the position for sure. They definitely need more. They need a playmaker back there. I think they're going to try to add someone, whether it be draft or free agency. I'm not sure who yet. Um, but I think they'll definitely be aggressive in adding someone via free agency or draft to the safety position. Um, but as the games have gone on, the safety position has improved. And I think that just goes with better communication, knowing where to be, positioning. So it might not be as a big of need as it was earlier in the season. So I think um, they might. I don't think they're going to stay status quo, but I think it's not as big of need as people thought it was early in the season.
Yeah, so with a player like that, I mean, I guess when you look at what their MO is, they've basically been kind of mid-level players. They're not going for the home run to get that marquee player to bring in here. They're bringing in guys that fit into a system, is what
Right.
it looks like to me, and that's on both defense and offense. Uh, I
Mhm.
think J.R. Sweezy may have been the biggest. What would you, in your opinion? I mean,
Mhm.
we're talking prior to them even taking a snap. We're talking strictly free agency here.
Mhm.
J.R. Sweezy was the bigger acquisition than, say, a Robert Ayers.
I mean,
I mean, and we're
from
just talking
media.
strictly from a free agency, not so much, the camp or playing or anything like that, but just
Mhm.
strictly from a free agency standpoint. When you
Mhm.
look at the list of players that Tampa brought in, J.R.
Mhm.
Sweezy and I would say Brent Grimes were two of the ones that kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. I mean, J.R. Sweezy, I don't think many Bucks fans expected, to hear that name being signed by the Bucks. We thought our offensive line was okay, but definitely a guy that was brought in to be that that road grader to say. It just didn't work out. But yeah, I think at the time he was one of the bigger names. He had 10 teams after him, so he was definitely one of the hotter free agent commodities. So that, yeah, it definitely had more noise than the Robert Ayers.
Yeah.
Um, but looking
So,
back at it,
so health wise, do you see Tampa bringing him back, Sweezy?
yeah, I mean, he's under contract. Now they could let him go and not suffer much penalty, but be back for camp. Um, So yeah, I expect him to come back and compete. Depth is always a good thing. Um, so yeah, definitely. They might ask him to maybe restructure his contract. I don't know, depending on the severeness of the injury, but I expect him to be back next year.
Yeah, and there you go. That's definitely a possibility. So I kind of
Hmm.
wanted to switch gears here and let's get back over to the Carolina Panther game.
Hmm.
What are your keys to victory for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? What do you see as something that Tampa and I know we always talk about the turnovers and the penalties
Hmm.
and all that other good stuff, but what do you think that it will? What do you think Tampa's doing right now, or Tampa has the capability of doing right now that would help them win a game?
I go back to this a lot. I mean, I think it's just staying balanced. You just got to keep balance on both sides of the ball. Um, just in your play calling in general, I think the Bucks need to do a better job. They kind of got away from this, especially the last 2 weeks. Now, granted, turnovers and stuff like that kind of takes you out of your plan, but I think it's just sticking to that plan, that original game plan. Just stick to it. Uh, Stay balanced, run the ball, use that play action. Um, and then on defense, stay aggressive and get after the quarterback. Get back to what you were doing earlier. Play press man, get after him. Don't let him just sit back there and uh, don't let Cam Newton run around and make plays. Stop the run and
Now let
and
me
get
ask
after it.
Yeah, and while we're talking about the defense here for a second,
Yeah.
you feel
Mhm.
like Tampa has kind of reined in that defense. They're not as aggressive. They're not going after it like they were in the previous uh, 3 games, 3 games
Well,
prior to the last two.
yeah, I mean, definitely against the Cowboys. I thought they were just way too laid back, especially against Prescott. I thought they needed to bring it more as far as pressure with their blitz packages and disguises, and they were kind of they're kind of light. It's just too basic. They're trying to play. Um, they did against the Saints with their coverage disguises, and it just didn't work. I think you needed to come after him, make him move, get him off that spot, um, and
Basically,
make
punch
him
them in
make
the
a
mouth.
mistake. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just I was telling my partner at Real Bucs Talk, Mark Ramirez, who's been on the show. I was telling him, we need to blitz every down, pretty much. Just bring it every down. Either it's going to be a run blitz and you get them, in the backfield, or you get after the quarterback. And more. And then against the Saints, I thought it was just more of communication breakdowns where
Yeah,
they allowed some big plays, which hurt them. And then not having Golson, that hurt, which we allowed some big runs to Mark Ingram.
exactly. And you could see
So
where Golston would have been in to stop
yeah.
some of those.
Yeah, exactly. But again, going back to the keys for this week, I think it's just staying on track. Just keep that game plan and don't give up on it too early, regardless of situation. Just stay in your lane, and just play your game.
Yeah. For me, and I've got a bunch of them here, but number one is it's got to be 7 and not 3. Got to be
Hmm.
7 and not 3. Next one for me is you got to stop Cam Newton. You have to make this guy uncomfortable. We've
Hmm.
already seen him melt down a few games where he's gotten a lot of pressure on him and he just hasn't answered the bell. And this is one of those seasons. I don't know if it's just if this is really who he is. Because last year, they won all those games, so you really didn't see him in a lot of bad positions. But uh, this year, you see him and his demeanor changes, and it's as if he's not able to handle the adversity that gets thrown at him. So it's going to be key for our front four or the Tampa Bay Buccaneer front four to get pressure on him. It's key.
Hmm.
You have to do that. Secondly, stopping the run.
Hmm.
Because what I've seen from Carolina, what they want to do is run the ball. They want to dictate the pace of the game. And then they throw in the wrinkle with the read option, Cam Newton making plays with his legs. And then that just kind of opens up the field for, your tight end or your wide receivers to do what they do. So it's very important to disrupt Cam Newton. That right there is going to tell you whether or not you're going to win this game because Cam Newton, despite what everybody says and all the negativity, he's still a very dangerous quarterback. And,
Hmm.
he can make those plays when given time. So that right there are the keys, as far as, winning the game. And another thing that I really didn't mention that just drives me insane is these back-breaking turnovers. Getting a turnover on your side, deep in your side of the field, is not helping anybody. So it's very important to protect that football and get down to where you can score. And let's not settle for 3. Settle, let's get 7 out of this, and put this game in a winnable. Put us in a winnable position to win this game.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And one more point, I think, special teams needs to be better, especially the return game. I mean, we just can't have these muff kicks and have us backed up like we did last week. That's just backbreaker, and then you have a turnover right after that. So, we got to have turns and just take what's there, and have good field position throughout the game. And, that's huge. Brian Anger, MVP this year. I've said that many times on Twitter. He's been our best player. throughout the season. I expect him to have another great game, but I would like to see something from our return units, whether it's a big return, something. And we just haven't had it all year. So I'm looking for that finally this year, hopefully in this game, I mean, in the last game. So hopefully, whether it's Josh Huff or Humphreys, just get a big return to spark our team.
Yeah, most definitely. That special teams can spark a game. It can be a game changer. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that. That's something that Tampa has. They've needed that for a while, and it's one of those things that I know that they've continually tried different guys out, and I don't know. I feel like they've come close a few times, but as of recent, who would you say, in your opinion, within the past 4 or 5 seasons, has been their best return person, whether kicks or punts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Humphreys does a great. I think he does a good job. I like him as a returner. Um, as far as kickoff returner, I don't know. I mean, the last good one that we had that was pretty good was Michael Spurlock, but
Yeah.
maybe Clifton Smith, but that's too long ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we definitely need to find something consistent. I think Josh Huff has the ability. He's shown it. I think he just needs to get comfortable with the guys that's in front of him.
I was just gonna say that was my thing. He's just so new. You
Yeah,
don't know
there's
who
not
you
enough
can trust.
reps.
Yeah, and you don't know who you can
Yeah.
trust when you're running through those lanes. And if you play with
Hmm.
somebody, and hopefully they can bring him back
Right.
next year, and he can get comfortable with everybody. And I think that that may make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Matt Long had mentioned that DeMar Dotson might play on Sunday, and he's passed concussion protocol. So that must have been a severe concussion that he had.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we need him back, and um, hopefully he can have a strong game and get this, offensive line back on track and get some movement against this Panthers defense, and we can just grind this game out and win with the running game and abuse their secondary with play action.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see Mike Evans,
Mhm.
get a couple more touchdowns, add some more yards to that, to his repertoire there, and just give him the exposure he deserves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is the point of the podcast. I really wanted to kind of touch on what you're doing right now. You've had some excellent articles, and I want to say I've appreciated your articles. They've been very informative this season, especially when keeping up with. When I was over in the UK, I had limited access to my to internet. So
Mm.
for me, I was like, man, I got to check out your blog. Was one of the ones that I really paid attention to, and you've added a person to Real Bucs Talk. Can you tell us about him?
Yeah, we added Douglas O'Connor. He's our newest writer. So yeah, he's just another great Bucs fan. He's lives here locally in Tampa. Um, we just he just brings a different perspective, and we're happy to have him along with us. Again, this is our first year, so we're just trying to get better with everything we do. And we're looking for a big second year coming up in this 2017. Always looking to expand and grow. So yeah, I mean, definitely he's been a great addition. As far as right now, just kind of wrapping things up on the season, giving a little preview into Carolina for this week. But most importantly, we're probably going to go into, as far as overall the season, give a kind of SWOT analysis of this team right now, identify their strengths and weaknesses, see what needs to be addressed, and it's gonna
I'm
shake
gonna
up
put you on the
at.
spot right now. Who's your
Mhm.
MVP? If the season ended today, who would your MVP
Oh,
be?
MVP. Well, I said it earlier, Brian Anger, but I really like how Mike Evans played. I thought he was just a man on a mission. Um, Standing the way he came from last season, the way it ended. a fight with Carolina, and just the growth he's made as far as a leader and also a player, and then off the field, just leaps and bounds. So I'm really happy for him. And I think this is just the beginning of what Mike Evans can be. I think he's going to be even better as we go forward. He's really a scary player. I mean, he has Randy Moss type ability, the way he can catch everything. And he's not even there as a route runner yet. So I'm really excited for him, and I think he's been our best player.
And when you talk about that, I don't know if you probably didn't get to see it. I was one of the few people who basically said that Mike Evans would be fine. I said that there was no consistency because of his injury, and he was out so long. When he finally got in and started working with Jameis Winston, there was no consistency. I said Mike Evans will be fine. And people were making a big deal. People were jumping out the window wanting to trade this guy. Every time somebody has a bad game or a bad couple of games or whatever, you want to trade him. You want to get rid of him. And that it just blows my mind sometimes. So just to see him redeem himself the way he has this season, it really makes me happy to see that. Because here's another guy. Think about this. He only started playing football his freshman or his senior year of high school. Senior year. And then he was only at Texas A&M he wasn't at Texas A&M that long. And then to come in and have the production that he's had in the NFL, and he's still learning the game, his upside is huge. Huge.
Absolutely.
So this is a guy that if he can stay healthy and him and Jameis Winston continue to get that cohesiveness, and you get in a second receiver that will take some of the pressure off of Mike Evans, you're talking about something real dangerous then.
Yep, absolutely. And 2017 NFL draft has a lot of good receivers, so
most definitely.
Very excited for that.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Anger is my guy. That would be my MVP. He single-handedly has handled a field position battle with every kick that he's made. I mean, every kick that he's taken, he's really helped the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in that field position battle. He's somebody that, this is what I love about this team. Again, what you're seeing the difference from this team as previous teams, where you have that competition amongst players. There was a kicking competition, and of course, Anger won. But just imagine, if they had just handed the position to somebody just because, hey, that's my guy. No, they had a competition, and the best player won. And we're seeing we're reaping the benefits, or us as fans and the team, we're reaping the benefits of having that, having those types of things. So to me, it's important. It's really important. And I hope they continue to do that and keep these competitions going to where you get the best player on the field, and then next man up if there's ever an injury, which we continually see, but you have next man up and you have players that are ready to go in there and play.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of competition, I think that's one move Jason Light wish he could go back in time and bring in another kicker in for Guayo. I think that was one mistake he made this past off season. I thought they should have pushed him a little bit with another kicker in there. I know he's a second round pick. I know you don't want to, hurt his confidence, but I thought another kicker, a veteran kicker, maybe just to push him, where he's got someone, to look at. And I think that's something they can do coming up this offseason. I think it would be smart just to bring in another kicker to just make him to say.
Yeah, because he's one of those guys. I don't want to give up on. I don't want to give up on him and say, "Oh, let's throw him away. Let's get somebody else in." And he could possibly be that guy. So it's kind of hard. I guess we live in a microwave society where everybody wants everything right now. Everything's got to be done right now, this very minute. And instead of letting a player mature and grow into the league, they have to be good right away. And I think that's what hurts some players in some instances. And then you have players that are able to rise above it, like a Jameis Winston or a Mike Evans, that are able to rise above that. So it's something that we're very fortunate to have been able to bring players like that in, and that's why I said early on in the show, and I'll say it again, I'm 100% comfortable with what Jason Light does, as he's made some really good decisions when it comes to player personnel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and absolutely. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if he continues his same process as far as the offseason goes, especially with he's going to have a little over 65 million in cap space to work with. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does as far as his, especially in free agency, to see how aggressive he's going to be, whether he keeps the same tactics as far as he's done the past two off seasons. So again, you got players that you got to re-sign back. You got big contracts coming up with Jameis Winston, Mike Evans, Quan Alexander. So there's a lot of money to go around right there.
And you know what?
But it's going to be.
And I don't think that's going to be a problem for Tampa. The way that they've handled free agency and the way that they've gotten players, what do you say? Low risk, high reward. They've done that. They've hit on a couple of players in free agency. And this is this is a great example of what the general manager can do when he has total control over the team, where he can handle the free agents as well as the draft picks. And he's shown that he can get the right players to fit in a system. And I see, what Mike Smith has been able to do. And I feel, again, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like Mike Smith, if he can get his guys in, I think that he can be a difference maker as a defensive coordinator. And sadly enough, I feel like once he hits that, I feel like some team is going to give him another chance to become a head coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's already been rumored to Jacksonville this offseason, but I just don't see him going there. I think they're going to be looking for an offensive head coach, especially with Blake Bortles.
Who is the Giants' ex-head coach? Help me out here.
Tom Coughlin.
Coughlin just interviewed for
Tom Coughlin. Job. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So that would be a good fit. Already.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, back to what was I going to say? Oh, I lost.
Jason Light.
Yeah, Jason Light. Yeah, as far as the offseason free agency, I think he's done a great job of staying away from that day one madness. Guys just looking for that big contract.
Yeah, I agree with you. How many of those guys, other than like an Olivia Vernon, how many of those guys have panned out from, the day one madness from last year?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, to be honest, I mean, all the Giants guys that they signed, I mean, they've actually had really good seasons. Janoris Jenkins has been outstanding.
Yeah. See, that's a guy I would have loved to see him in a Buccaneers uniform.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. But I mean, he got a big contract. It's hard to give up that kind of money. But then, day two, we get Brent Grimes. So I think, and for a lot cheaper too. So kind of keep that same MO where he's, stays back on day one and go for the next tier of guys, the mid, that you can get for a better deal as far as contracts goes. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, a lot of money, so it'll be cool to see if he goes after the big fish that will be available.
Matt Long had made mention of Jason Light being part of the Patriots tree, and they cut bait and move on. So, basically, as I mentioned before, low risk, high reward. Going out and getting those players where you're not breaking the bank, but you're able to bring those guys in. And a lot of times you want somebody that's going to fit into that system, whether it's your offensive coordinator or your defensive coordinator system. You want them to be able to fit in there and be able to produce. So he's done a great job of that. And I started him this season only because I heard rumors that it was him and Lovey were kind of sharing the responsibilities early on. And we saw some inconsistencies with some of the free agents that were brought in. So just to see Jason Light, and there's nobody that's he's having to share this responsibility with. He's 100% the general manager, and you can see what he was able to do, himself. And I think he's off to a great start. And the consistency, and this is another word that you hear me use a lot. I think you're going to really this fan base is going to really appreciate this team. Without let's barring any injuries. With the consistency in the administration, your coaches, your trainers, your scouts, unless they get plucked up by their teams, everything should stay the same. And that should create some kind of stability. And you couple that with the change in culture, and this team can really do a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes to what you just said. I mean, consistency, that's the biggest thing. Consistent in everything that you do as an organization. And you're right about the Lovey and Jason Light. I mean, Lovey was pretty much in control when he was here. He pretty much made most of the decisions, especially when I knew it when they brought in Josh McCown. When they brought in Josh McCown to be quarterback, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's typical Lovey Smith decision. And then they go out and cut Darrelle Revis, who you could say what you want, yeah, 16 million, but you just don't cut guys like Darrelle Revis. I'm sorry, you just don't do it. But yeah, I mean, just getting back to consistent decision making, and then this past offseason, that was Jason Light all the way. I thought his moves this past offseason, that was outstanding, especially in free agency, getting guys like guys that just make sense. Josh Robinson, who's been outstanding this year as well. So, and smart contracts as well. 2 to 3 year deals, nothing too drastic. Yeah, they gave Sweezy, I think, a 5-year deal, but nothing where it's going to hurt you in the long term.
Absolutely. And, on that point, you can see the balance, and I'm not singing his praises. I'm just, basing on what he's done so far. This guy, he's good with contracts, so he's good with the money, and he's good with player personnel. And to couple that makes a good general manager right there,
right?
Because you're providing players for your team to give you the opportunity to win. So just what he's done. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do this free agency. I'm not real sure who's out there that would fit this team, or who we would be able to use as an upgrade. So it'll be really interesting to see what teams sign players and what teams allow other players to get out and try out for free agency. So this is going to be a fun off season. And, I know we have one more game, and I know we're kind of talking about this now, but, it's building this team up, and we're watching this team continually get better, going from a 2-win season to a 6-win season to here we are. And then, as I mentioned before, a potential 8 or 9-win team. So that's really exciting to look at this and, just see it continually progress.
Yep, right on. I mean, that's what you want as a fan, as a organization. You want that consistent trend upward. And you look at the team we're playing this week. The Carolina Panthers. I mean, they went through the same thing when they drafted Cam Newton. They're just on that upward trend. Last year in the Super Bowl, and I think this team is very comparable to the Carolina Panthers and how they're building this team and how they're coming together. And going upward. So nothing.
I will say this, and I don't want to sound like a homer, but I like our quarterback over theirs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I believe Jameis handles adversity a little bit better than their quarterback does.
Yeah, absolutely. Cam Newton doesn't like to get hit. Plain fact and simple. I mean, he just doesn't like being hit. Once he starts getting hit in the pocket, he will get frustrated and start making bad decisions. And it's unfortunate he just doesn't have the mindset to overcome that, unfortunately. And I don't know. I mean, if you can get to him, he's going to start making mistakes. That's what I've been seeing throughout his career. With that said, though, he makes great plays and
Absolutely.
still a great player. Yeah. But
And that's what I said
back
earlier
to
on in the show is that he's still a very dangerous player. And I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just saying that his whole demeanor changes when he gets hit a lot and things aren't going his way. And there were a few games last year where Carolina came back and won those games, and you were like, wow, this is a different Cam Newton. But now he's kind of reverted back to what you saw the year before that. Whereas, when you have that adversity, you see a different Cam Newton. I know a lot of Panthers fans that are going to watch this are going to disagree with me, but I'm an outsider looking in. It's not something that I'm not being overly critical of the guy. It's just what I see, and I just don't see that from a lot of other quarterbacks throughout the league. One guy that he kind of reminds me of in a way is Donovan McNabb, because McNabb was another guy that if he's winning and he's got his foot on the gas, he's a really good quarterback. But if he's getting hit or he's getting beat up in the pocket, like you mentioned, when he's one of those guys, it's a totally different story. And those come from behind wins. He was usually in front when he was winning games.
Yeah, and that's what separates the good to the great quarterbacks. It's guys that can overcome that adversity and guys that can just keep plugging along, just keep playing their game. Drew Brees does it the best. I mean, he could have a terrible first half, and then all of a sudden, the second
3 quarters.
Right, and fourth quarter, he is on fire and just lighting it up. And I see that in Jameis Winston. I see his ability where things aren't going his way, but he'll just keep fighting. I mean, he just keeps playing and finds a way to at least to win.
And you look at the history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm going to go all the way back to Doug Williams. How many other quarterbacks have you seen or heard somebody talking about that you could really compare with that type of mentality that a Jameis Winston has? How many quarterbacks have you heard of or known about that Tampa has had that you could really, I don't want to say compare skill-wise, but just that never give up mentality?
I mean, you can't really. I mean, there's not many besides, like you said, Doug Williams. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, this team has struggled when it comes to quarterbacks, and just to have a good quality quarterback like this is it's huge. And this, he's not even scratched the surface of his upside when you consider, what is he, 23?
22
that's
still.
He'll
be 20. Yeah.
22.
Yeah, 23. Yeah, 23 in January. So yeah.
So that's something that that's something to definitely keep our eyes on. That's something to be excited about, really.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And we discussed our MVPs. Is there anybody that you feel is your breakout player? Somebody that you didn't really see at the beginning of the season, and here they are, and they're making an impact on this team, and that could even be your rookie. So I mean, for you, who would that breakout player be?
Man, I mean, it's close. I'm gonna go with Kevin Panfield. I think the way he's come on, I thought. Now he hasn't been great the last couple of weeks, but I thought during the first half of the season, I thought he was our best offensive lineman. But overall, I thought he's had a great season. Really consistent at left guard, and it's a new position too. And I thought he's done a great job of overcoming adversity and he's had a tough offseason. I mean, lost his mom, and just the way he's battled and fought this year, I thought he played really well. But again, another guy, Cameron Brate. I mean, Cameron Brate's been outstanding this season. What has he got? 8 touchdowns, tied for most Bucs tight end touchdowns with Jimmy Giles.
He's at 7. He was
7.
He's at 7. He and who was it? Jimmy Giles has 8.
Okay, he needed 8 to break the record. Okay.
Right.
but yeah, I mean, he's been outstanding this year. Right there, I think are breakout candidates.
Yeah. For me, it's going to be Will Golston's my guy. I did
Mhm.
not expect anything from Will Golston this year. I saw flashes the year before, but I just really didn't expect a whole lot out of him this year. And what he's been able to do, stopping the run and just making plays that you don't expect him to make, he's been a pleasant surprise for me. Another guy that's been a pleasant surprise for me is Werner Hargraves. And
Mhm.
I think part of it is because I'm not an SEC person, so I rarely
Mhm.
watched the Florida Gators. And he was one of those guys that I was like, oh, he always gets beat with a double move or whatever. But just watching him this season as a professional, aside from that Amari Cooper game and maybe the Julio Jones game, I would have to say that he's had a very solid rookie season, and
Mhm.
I think he's pretty high up on tackles. So
Oh yeah.
I think that that was a real solid draft pick to bring in Vernon Hargraves. I think he's a solid pick, and I think he's going to grow another player that's going to really grow in homegrown. He's
Mhm.
from the Tampa Bay area, so I'm that's another reason for me to really like him too. So it's just one of those
Mhm.
guys that he's going to continually get better. I think the addition of Brent Grimes really helped him out a lot, and you have somebody that's similar in size and similar in the way they play, and I think that's made a big difference.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at this defense. You look at Vernon Hargraves and Noah Spence. I mean, those are two rookies right there that are going to be probably the two biggest pieces of this defense for the next however many years. I mean, they're going to be impact players, and we're going to need them to be impact players. Noah Spence is going to continue to grow. So is Hargraves. So you look at that from that perspective. Two rookies right there that are for this team. It's just exciting going into next season, what they
Yeah.
can become. Yeah.
Yeah, and you consider Noah Spence was injured and he was playing
Yeah.
injured. And just imagine what he'll be like at 100% with a year under his belt. So that's,
Mm-hmm.
again, that's something else to really be excited about. So, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. It's been an hour. It's hard to believe it's been an hour already. But I really, again, I always appreciate you coming on. I always appreciate your insight. You and Mark both. You guys. Actually, anybody from Real Bucs Talk is always welcome to come on whenever, and I'll definitely get you guys on and make sure that more people are checking out your content because you guys do great work. Um,
Thank you.
let me get your final thoughts, and we'll get on out of here.
Yeah. Final thoughts. I mean, for this week, I've been stressing it to Gene here. I just want to see this team finish strong. It's important. Yes, we're probably not going to be in the playoffs, which is sad. It's unfortunate, but you want to see this team just come out, play with passion, play with fire. Um, Season off right. You don't want to go into the offseason with a 3-game losing streak, especially coming off a year where you lost 4 in a row to end that season. So you want to have a positive vibe going into the offseason. I just want to see this team play smart football. I want to see Jameis, go through his progressions, use that play action, and get your people downfield and make some accurate throws. I want to see us use the running game. This is a team we should beat. It's a team that we are better than. We've been more consistent team all year. So I expect us to play like it. And at the stadium, I'm going to be rocking out at Ray J. I'm going to be excited for that. I'm going to be cheering this team on. And I just want to see us finish strong. And Buck Nation, just be excited. I know the season's over. It's not how we want it to end, but be excited for what we have in this team. Be passionate for the players that we have on this team, and these guys are just going to continue to get better. Believe in Jason Light. Believe in this coaching staff. Let's go Bucs. Let's finish it strong.
Yeah, most definitely. Hey, I want to give some shout outs. First one is to Doug Martin. what he's going through, I wouldn't wish on anybody. And hopefully, you know, whether he's with Tampa or wherever he's at, he's a man. And, you know, he's somebody I have a lot of respect for. I've met him a couple of times, and I hope that he can get well and get back and be productive doing what he loves to do. I want to take time to thank Amazement 717, Matt Long, and Eric Moreno for chopping it up here in the chat with me. You guys are awesome, and I really appreciate you and anybody else that's checking out the podcast, because it's I do this for fun. It's a fan thing for me, and you know, I enjoy you guys, and I enjoy your comments. Give me some likes, or you know, just give me some feedback on, you know, what you would like to see or any questions you want to get answered, and I'll definitely get them on. It's hard work being a Buccaneers fan at times, and we've seen that since the Super Bowl to the present time. So let's everybody stick together, and eventually we're going to get back into the playoffs, and we're going to make some noise, and we're going to make a lot of teams nervous. So that's pretty much it for me. I'm out. I want to thank you, Michael Pless. I appreciate you, man. And that's it for me. And we are out.